Yeah, what up, y'all? Welcome back. Replicon Radio. We're back. We're doing it. We have a very special guest on the line. You may know him for several things. Maybe as Killjoy, maybe as the head of the Diaper Mafia, writer-director of the brand new 68 Kill. You never know. But give it up for Mr. Trent Haaga. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Replicon Radio listeners? What's going on? Yeah, I'm here. I'm not there, but I'm here in my home talking to you there, wherever you're at.
That's even. Well, I'm actually here in my home, so that works out even better. I'm not even in the studio today, so we're just
sweet.
Super
and whoever's listening to this is probably listening to in all their prospective homes. So here we are. It's very comfy. We should all be very comfortable because we're all sitting in our homes comfortably. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. I know you're busy. You're out there taking over the world and whatnot, so we appreciate you taking the time to sit down in your home and hang out with us for a little bit and chat it up. So thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's no problem. You know what I mean? I actually went through many years where I just kind of like was not doing interviews, not doing podcasts. I just go, who cares what I'm up to? You know, and then I'm like, everybody's got the social media and whatever. Everybody's, I don't know. I was just against doing it, but I'm sort of loosened up these days. You know, I'm more willing to talk about my shit, I guess, or to do these things. Honestly, I thought your thing was pretty interesting because you guys seem to be really tapped into the full moon world and the Troma world, which is where I sort of came from. And then, there's a little bit of this underground hip-hop thing, which I'm into it. I like it. It's sort of the new punk rock. I dig it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all kind of molded together. And honestly, I have to thank our listeners for that because, I was a fan of Troma. I didn't know a whole lot of Full Moon until our listeners actually introduced me to it and wanted us to reach out because they were big fans of Killjoy and some of the other Full Moon movies. So we actually reached out to John Lachago a month or so ago, and he was super interesting, and it's just kind of led from there, and we're deep into it now, and it's pretty awesome. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Having worked extensively for Troma and also for Full Moon, I've done multiple projects for each of the companies. They couldn't be more apart, I think, philosophically and in their method of working. But there is there's sort of a commonality, I think, with the budget levels and with what they're trying to do. And of course, honestly, I think I have to be probably the number one individual who has done the most projects for both of those companies, ever, in the world, in the history of the world. And you really think about it, I've done a lot of stuff for Troma, more than most people, and I've done 7 movies for Charles Band as well. So I am sort of the ultimate bridge that links the worlds of Full Moon and Troma.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So kind of, I guess, so getting to that, actually, what we kind of like to do is, I'm sure you've told this story a million times, but we like to go back, man, to the beginning for the people that may not know. Obviously, we talked about how you kind of got started with Troma. That all kind of happened by accident, right? How did your introduction into movie world, let alone Troma, how did that all kind of begin for you back in the day?
Yeah, well, we have to go way back in the day. My first movie for Troma was almost 22 years ago now. It's coming up on 22 years. And back then, you got to understand, man, the internet was just starting out, okay? So if you were into shit like Full Moon and Troma and everything like that, everything was just a little bit harder. It was a little bit harder to be underground. It was a little bit harder to get information about all this kind of stuff. But I had grown up in the Midwest, in Indiana and West Virginia and Kentucky, reading all the Fangorias. I was the freakazoid. I was the one kid that I knew that was into all this shit. So 20-something years ago, I was living in New York City, and I was working for a website that did entertainment content for an internet service provider called CompuServe. Back in the day, you either had to have CompuServe or AOL in order to get the internet. We didn't have browsers.
Oh, I remember.
So I was working for CompuServe.
23 hours. Yeah. 23 hours. Insert this disc, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was working for these people doing the entertainment content for CompuServe, and I was working with mainstream studios and, just trying to put up pictures of Cameron Diaz from Something About Mary, where people had to take 10 minutes to download them at 28.8 modem speeds. It was like ridiculous. But I was a real big fan of the Troma stuff, and kind of was always trying to write stories about underground cinema on the CompuServe website. And one day I heard that Troma was getting ready to do a new movie, and they were looking for extras. So I went to my boss and said, hey, listen, let me go and audition to be an extra in this thing, and I'll take pictures, and if I can get on the movie as an extra, I'll write a story, and we'll have some fresh content to the site. And he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I left work early one day to go audition for this movie to be a background extra. I was obviously a huge film fan, and I love movies, and I was a cinema fiend, but I'd never actually made a movie or done anything like that. So I went in, and I sort of kind of didn't have a headshot or a resume, no experience, but I was just very enthusiastic. And Will Keenan, who plays Tromeo in Tromeo and Juliet, and who also plays the bad guy in Terra Firma, was the casting director. And I recognized him and was like, oh my God, it's Tromeo. And I just sort of, let them videotape me talking about how I really wanted to be in the movie, and if they let me be in a background extra, I'd write a story about it on CompuServe. And man, I don't know what happened. I just I kept getting called back and called back and called back, and being read with different actors, and it just like it just went. I ended up getting a major role in this movie.
That's awesome.
So I went and took a break from my job for 20 days and went and shot this movie. And when I went back to my regular job, I was like, oh my God, I just got I just chased the dragon, man. I made a movie, and it was the best experience of my life, and now I can't go back and just write about movies anymore. And so from then on, man, I, while I was making Terra Firma, I was like the actor who also helped the crew break down at the end of the day and was trying to learn about everything. And when he said cut, I hung around because I wanted to watch him direct, and he saw that I had an extreme interest in movies, and I gave him a script that I'd written, and he liked it, and he hired me to write The Toxic Avenger Part 4, and from that point on, I mean, I couldn't go back to working regular jobs ever again, man. I had to make movies, and here I am 22 years later.
That's so awesome, man. That's such a crazy story. Like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, it was almost by accident, but yet destined at the same time. Like, you just had to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, a lot of it has to do with, like, that's it, man. You just gotta, like, go and put your fears aside and throw yourself out there and look for opportunities. And if you see a door crack open a little bit, you got to try to kick that door as wide as you can and do whatever you can to, like, get through to the next door or whatever. I mean, that's how I approached it. But there was certainly an amount of, like, strange luck involved in the whole thing. So
it's so cool. But you were, I mean, and you before that, you were obviously, like you said, you were.
Oh my God! Hey, yep. Dude, can we? Shit, my wife is leaving me an emergency message for me to call her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we like pause and do this like in 5 minutes?
Yep. Yeah, welcome back, Replicon Radio. We're here. We're doing it. We're back. Take two. We're doing it, man.
I don't know if that's ever happened to you in another podcast where, 10 minutes into a podcast, they got to run off and go unload a truck. But that's the exciting life of a Hollywood filmmaker and screenwriter. You know what I mean? I had to go to Burbank and unload a truck full of cardboard boxes full of clothes.
It's perfect. But we're back. We're doing it. You came back. We're live.
I did.
The man on the phone, you may know him. This could be the second intro. Who knows how this is going to work out. But anyway, Trent Haaga live on the line right here. Welcome again to Replicon Radio. Again, I appreciate it, especially after the day you had. So.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. My apologies. So I had just discussed how I landed my job at Troma. I think hopefully we'll use that other stuff. And now that I mention it, you have no choice but to do it.
That's right.
We're just going to acknowledge that I had to cut this podcast short for a minute to go run out for a couple hours and do like manual labor, and now I get to come back and be a big time Hollywood douchebag. Here I am.
It's perfect. You're going to be like the first episode we've ever had like outtakes of.
Nice.
Because a lot of times we'll do it live and or different stuff. So it'll be good. You were were working at CompuServe. You went to go get a job as an extra. You ended up landing the role in Terra Firma. But prior to that, you were actually you were into film anyway, right? You went to film school prior to that before you got the job, right? Like, so what was your initial idea like with film? Did you want to be an actor? Did you want to be a writer? Like, what was it about film that brought you to film school to begin with?
Well, I guess we got to harken back again to the fact that I'm an old man. You know what I mean? I graduated high school in 1990. I was living in Charleston, West Virginia at the time. And you've got to think, that was 30-something years ago. Film schools weren't as predominant. And when you said, I want to go to film school, you know, we didn't have the internet. Okay, so I worked at a video store, and I would watch all the weird Shokashugi ninja movies and Andy Warhol's Dracula and Frankenstein. Like, you know, I was really into obscure cinema. I was always a movie fan, and, you know, my parents, my dad works for the coal industry. My mom is a nurse, and they were like, look, we've worked hard. You need to go to college. And I was like, I don't need college. I'm just going to end up working in the coal mines like Dad or whatever. And they were like, no, you should go to college. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. But what I do know is I have an insane interest in cinema. And so I was like, if you want me to go to college, I want to go to film school. And everybody was like, there's school for film? Like, don't you have to have an uncle that like works at Paramount or something? How are you going to do that? And I was like, I don't know. Honestly, my plan was I was going to go learn how to make a movie, and then I thought for sure I would end up living back in the Midwest and just doing blue-collar work. You know, my grandpa was a tool and die maker for General Electric. My dad worked for Peabody Coal. Like, I'm just from a long line of sort of blue-collar Midwestern workers. And in 1990, saying, oh, I'd like to make a movie, people were like, yeah, you know, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So I went to film school, and, you know, I just learned everything I could about making movies, and I just thought for sure that I was going to end up, you know, never, ever making a movie in actuality. But I was always more interested definitely in, like, the behind-the-scenes stuff, you know. The fact that I've been in so many movies and I've acted in so many things is almost, and this is going to sound terrible for people who aspire to be actors, but it was almost an accident. You know, I literally went in to be an extra. I ended up getting cast in a pretty significant role in a movie. And after that movie came out, and, you know, people would ask me to be in their movies. And I was always like, well, since I never intended to be an actor anyway, I can't embarrass myself. I can't pick a bad project that's going to ruin my career as an actor because I never really intended to be an actor. So I kept acting in movies, and I would use those opportunities to kind of get to know filmmakers and then turn it around and try to get behind the scenes. I mean, you know, with Terra Firma, I was hired only as an actor, but by the next movie, The Toxic Avenger 4, we made it a year later, I was the line producer, the assistant director, I was the screenwriter, you know, I hired the cast and crew. So I sort of used my lucky streak I got to get in front of the camera to work my way behind the camera.
Absolutely. What better way to learn about movies than to be in them, right?
100%. I mean, you know, nothing is required of you except to act, and there's more non-acting than acting going on. I mean, if you're working for 12 hours, you're probably getting 4 or 5 minutes of film being captured. The rest of the day, you're doing the logistics of making a movie. So I love being an actor because I get to watch other crews, and I get to watch other directors, and I get to learn how they did things and what to do right and what to do wrong, and it's really prepared me for being able to direct my own movies, which came way later. I spent years here in LA working as a production assistant, working in the art department on a bunch of TV commercials and TV shows and whatever. I mean, I was just a guy who would do anything, you know, and the whole time I was writing screenplays, you know, in my downtime. So. That's
awesome. So you landed, so you did the film school thing, you ended up going back to New York. I guess there's a story with that too. I guess you ended up following a young lady there. Is that how you ended up in New York, and how destiny kind of presented itself again?
Exactly. You know, like I said, I didn't really have a big master plan when I got out of college, but I dated this girl all through college. She works in the fashion industry. I just unloaded a truck full of clothes that she designed. And, you know, I was like, you know, I don't really know what I want to do. New York seems okay. And I went up there. Fortunately, you know, Troma happened to be there, and that's how I got hooked up with them. But, yeah, that's why I went to New York, was to be with this young lady who is now my wife, and golly gee, we've been together for 30 years.
Congratulations on that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's an accomplishment for anyone nowadays, regardless of making
yeah,
movies.
Yeah, exactly. We're always like, even if we broke up today, this would still be a win.
Right, we did it.
yeah, totally.
That's awesome. So back to where we were. You ended up, while you're out there working, you slip Lloyd the screenplay. You get hired to write Toxie 4, which is crazy for anyone that's ever tried to get into movies. And you just, here's your job as a screenplay writer. But that's awesome. Obviously, your work was, Lloyd was impressed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that the script that I gave Lloyd was never something that Lloyd would have made, but it showed that I had sort of a gumption and was like I was going ahead and writing screenplays even if I wasn't sure if they'd ever get made. I'm a proactive guy, and that's the way you have to be. You have to be very proactive in this business. You got to get out there, put yourself out there. As a writer, you just have to keep writing stuff so you can generate work. So Lloyd read my sample and really liked it, and I think he knew the kind of guy I was and how seriously I take the work and how diligent and quick working I am. I mean, I credit my, growing up working on Grandpa's farm, you know what I mean? I treat this job in much the same way that I would treat any sort of a job. You know what I mean? My dad did not dig 16 tons of coal one day and then go, now I'm going to hang out by the pool, read scripts and sort of figure out what my next move is for, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which is what Hollywood is all about. It's like, I'm going to make something and then, I need to take 6 months to try to set up the next thing. No, I mean, you got to go into the coal mine and dig every single day. That's how it works. That's how I approach it. And I think that that's why it's worked out for me. I mean, I've made a lot of movies. I just haven't made a lot of money doing it, but it's because of just pushing, always working.
That's awesome. So Toxie 4 comes out. People love it. Like, what happens now? You're a screenwriter. I mean, now you're a screenwriter. You're an actor. You're a screenwriter. Like, what happens next? Like, where are you? Are you freaking out in your mind? Like, holy cow, I'm doing it. I did what I wanted to do that I never thought I would do.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that that's it. It's sort of like, and I hate to keep bringing up that comparison, but it's like there's an addicting quality to it, and there's definitely a junkie whatever. You know what I mean? You do it, and it feels real good, and then you try to go back to the real world, and you're like, this can't be done, man. I need the next high. I need the next hit. Yeah. I need to make another movie. And so that's how it went. And it's really weird. I mean, obviously, all I wanted to do was work with Lloyd Kaufman. All I wanted to be is an extra. I ended up really putting myself out there, and I got a bigger role. Then I wanted to be more creatively involved. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to write a movie that got made. And I was able to push myself into that realm. But then I did that, and I was like, well, that's cool. I've done those, but what can I do next? And I think that that's always the way I look at it is it's always cool when you do something and then you can stand back and look at your accomplishment, but I only do that for a very, very, very brief second, and then I turn around and I try to look ahead and figure out what the next move is. All right, so now I've written a movie, it's been made, and it's a Troma movie, it's a Toxic Avenger movie. It's the pinnacle of my success, but there's got to be another pinnacle I can create. What is that? Absolutely. You know what I mean? How many more movies can I write and get made? And so that's the way I look at it. Is this is just putting one foot in front of the other. So I don't really spend a lot of time turning around and looking where I've been. I just constantly concentrate on what I can do next. But yeah, of course. I mean, it's very exciting and very thrilling to have grown up watching Lloyd's movies and and admiring them, and then all of a sudden now I'm a writer of a Toxic Avenger movie. I mean, can it get better than that? I didn't think so at the time, but it can.
No, absolutely. Yeah, but that's an incredible accomplishment, especially just thinking of where you came from, just watching the movies.
100%. Like, I do not have an uncle who works at Paramount. I don't have I wasn't born rich so that I could hang out and, like I said, wait 6 months to try to make a plan. Like, this is my job, and like I said, being a kid who grew up in the Midwest to blue collar workers and whatever, it was it's very exciting that it can be done. You know what I mean? I guess that's the thing, is I'm always like, this is amazing because I'm proving to myself that this can be done. The things that people told me couldn't be done when I was 18, I have done.
Absolutely. And it doesn't get any better than the leader of the diaper mafia. How do you?
You know what I mean? Yeah, right? I was like, oh, that's it. I've done it all. Now what am I going to do? But you've always got to try to build the next level up. You know what I mean? Build the next level up.
So going from that, how did you go from holy cow, I just got to write the screenplay for Toxie to stumbling into the world of Charles Band and becoming Killjoy the Clown?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that happened pretty soon afterwards. What happened is my wife grew up here in Southern California, where I live now, and we'd been living in New York, and I made my Troma movies, and we were married, and we knew we were going to have kids and stuff. So we were just like, eventually, we're going to end up on the West Coast. Let's make the move. I moved about halfway through. I wrote Lloyd's book, Make Your Own Damn Movie, and then I started to do a TV series called Troma's Edge TV, where I was like the host. And we did half of those, and then I moved out here to the West Coast, and I did my other half of my Troma movies, and then I got just a regular job working at a post-production place. I was a telecine assistant, and I worked that for a couple months and was like, man, I know I just want to work in movies, but this is the lamest aspect of working in movies. Like, this is transferring dailies from Walker Texas Ranger onto digital so that they can be edited. Like, this is terrible. So I sort of put out some feelers and whatever, and Debbie Rochon, who was my co-star in both Terror Firmer and Citizen Toxie, and we became friends working on those movies, and she was going to do this movie Killjoy 2 as an actor, and she knew that, and it was on the West Coast, and she knew that I had just moved out there. So she was like, let me put you in touch with J.R. Bookwalter, who's the producer of these 3 movies for Full Moon. And I went and I met with J.R. Bookwalter, and he was like, would you like to come on and work on these 3 movies as a producer? Because you've got experience doing these Troma things. And these were also very low-budget, quick turnaround. There were 3 movies that we did for Band, and we did 3 of them in 3 months. He went to Blockbuster and sold 3 titles of movies that he didn't have, and he told them that he had them. And so they were like, great, we'll take Killjoy 2 in January, and we'll take Hell Asylum in February, and we'll take Dead and Rotting in March, and they need to be in the stores for then. And Charles Band was like, okay, this was like in August of the year before, and he came back and was like, here's 3 titles. I need you to make 3 movies, and they need to be done like now.
Jesus.
So we went out, and gosh, man, I think I got hired on Killjoy 2, and like 12 days later, we were shooting that movie. And 8 days, we shot that movie for 8 days, and we finished it, and then we sent it over to the post-production team, and I started writing Hell Asylum, and I wrote that in about 5 days. And then 12 days or 15 days after I turned it in, we started shooting that, and we shot that in 8 days, and then I flew to Ohio, and I produced Dead and Rotting for the same team. So we just did bam, 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 3 entire movies in 3 months. Wow. From soup to nuts. It was pretty amazing, and it was a great experience. I learned really a lot about scheduling, and just trying to shoot a movie in 8 days is really hard. Trying to shoot 3 movies, each of them in 8 days in 3 months, is almost impossible. That's so, it was a great learning experience. And fundamentally, I got hired to be a producer of Killjoy 2, and we were, like I said, we only had like maybe 2 weeks of prep, and we had to hire the whole cast. And the director, Tammy Sutton, and I were having a meeting, and she was like, who are we going to get for Killjoy? And I was like, well, what happened to the guy who played Killjoy in the first movie? And she was like, he won't do it. I don't know if it wasn't enough money. I don't know what it was. But I was like, okay, no problem. We'll just find a guy about the same height and the same whatever. And she was like, well, I saw you in your other 2 movies, and you're an actor. I know you're going to be there because you're the producer, so maybe you should just play the clown as well. And I was like, okay.
That's amazing.
And that's how that happened. And I ended up, making that. And let me tell you, I mean, it's okay. It's fun to be the clown for a minute, but like having to go in before everybody and get like an hour's worth of makeup put on, and then not being able to take it off for lunch, and wearing it for 16 hours a day, and then having to take another 40 minutes to remove it, and then going home to bed for about 5 hours, and then turning around and putting it all back on again. 6 days in a row. I think Killjoy shot for 6 of the 8 days. It's a strain. It's a strain. I'm not going to be one of those people. Acting is hard, okay, because I've worked every job on a set, and acting is possibly the easiest job on the set. Sorry, actors, but I just got to say that's how I feel about it after having worked on all the jobs on the set. But I did it. I took one for the team. I was like, you know what? I know I'll do it, and okay, great. So I went and got my head cast and the makeup and whatever, and I played Killjoy in this movie. And then we did a couple others, and then I, went off to go work on TV commercials and whatever, and do other projects. And a couple of years later, I got a call from the effects guy from Killjoy 2, or the guy, Tom Devlin, who was going to do the effects for Killjoy 3. And we were friends, and he was like, look, they're getting ready to do a part 3, and I think you should come back and play the clown. And I was like, whoa. No, that was never part of the agreement. I just wanted to, do it because I was a producer, and I was responsible for that production. I didn't have any intention to play the clown,
Yeah.
But then he was like, look, we're going to China, and we're shooting this movie. And I was like, really? China? All right, I'll do it. So then, so then I went to China, and we shot part 3, and that was when sort of John Lachago came on, and I really was like, oh, this has got a much bigger scope and a greater vision than what we did with the second one. And there were all these other clowns, and there was just something about, the first 3, I love the teams that we were working with, but we were sort of like mercenary. We were just jobs to make 3 movies as quickly as possible. This one, John had spent some more time with it. He had actually written the script. He, is a artist and a production designer by trade, and so he had a little bit more of a vision. And it sort of was the first time the Killjoy team who did 3, 4, and 5 all kind of got together. And I liked working with those guys. So a year after that, when they called me up and said, guess what, part 3 did so well, we're going to do part 4. Of course I did it. And then a couple of years after that, they were like, part 4 did so well, we're going to do a part 5. And so I came back and did that one. And, if they call me tomorrow and they're like, guess what, we'll do a part 6, I'll probably do it if it's the same team of people I like working with. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had the pleasure of speaking with John and with Victoria DeMar. And yeah,
Okay.
they were fantastic. I enjoyed it, and she definitely talked about the burdens of the makeup and the scheduling as well. So I can only imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I only have to have my whole head done. She has to have her entire naked body done, and it takes like a lot longer. And then she's got to walk around with no clothes on. Although, like when you're in China during monsoon season and it's like a billion gajillion degrees. And it's all hot and humid. There were times where I was like, man, I wish Killjoy was just naked because I'm ready to die. It's so hot.
That's awesome. It's, obviously, like we kind of talked earlier, it wasn't really your idea to act, let alone, with the Killjoy, you had no intentions. And then all of a sudden, you became this iconic character. 8 years later, they're making, several sequels and everything else. And now, like, fans are still clamoring for a new one. You have an action figure of your character.
Yeah.
How crazy is that to think, like, I just want to make movies, and now here I am, this iconic character, and like, what's
right.
that?
I mean, I think that a lot of times that kind of thing happens, and I didn't have a plan. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, and then Killjoy will become a thing. I was literally just like, what's always been my thing in my career or whatever is I just say yes. You know what I mean? I say yes, and I'm open to the universe, man. I'm open to what may or may not happen, because what you know about are all the success stories of the things that actually succeeded and got out there. But for every one time I said yes to playing Killjoy and it turned into a franchise figure, there's 15 times where I tried to get a movie off the ground and nothing ever happens. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you hear about the successes, but you never hear about the failures because, nobody talks about the failures because they don't get made. You know what I mean? So really, in a way, it's just about being open to it and being like, yes, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, a funny story is that I ended up going to China to make part 3. And while I was there, they just basically had us locked up in the soundstage for 9 days. And then they were like, okay, now you can go home. And I was like, wait a minute, man, I can't fly all the way to fucking China just to stand in a soundstage in clown makeup, you know what I mean, for 9 days and then turn around and fly back. I may never go to China again. So I was like, I'm going to change my return flight from Hong Kong, and I'm going to go up to Beijing for 4 days just to go see the Great Wall of China and do whatever, all by myself. And I went up there. As I said, my wife works in clothing manufacturing, and she knew a dude who she worked with, who had some factories and did import export and clothing manufacturing in Beijing. And she was like, well, let me put you in touch with that guy since you don't know anybody there. And so I ended up going out and having dinner with this gentleman. And he was like, well, what are you doing in China? And I was like, oh, I was down in Guangzhou making this movie. And he was like, you're making a movie in China? Like in English? Yeah. And he was like, wow, that's really interesting. So what does it take to make a movie? And I kind of explained to him, and he's like, well, do you have a movie you'd like to make? And I said, sure. And he said, how much money would it cost to make that movie? And I threw him out a number, and he was like, okay, that sounds good. I'll produce your next movie. And that's how my film Chop got made.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's awesome.
You know, so, and it's weird because on one hand, and this is the thing is, you know, a career or whatever, I mean, there's a huge amount of luck involved, but there's also just, like I said, just kind of putting it out there, constantly putting it out there. You know what I mean? You have to, as they say, you've got to stir a lot of pots in order to get one to boil. And so if you look at my career and you go, man, this guy's made like 100 films in some way or another. But the truth of the matter is I've tried to make 500. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've only succeeded 100 times.
No, that's awesome. It's crazy. Like how things just, the world just works that way and things just fall, not necessarily into place, but as, you know what I mean? Like you said, the more doors you open, eventually someone's going to answer one of them.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, you just kind of got to kind of sniff around, and you've got to be able to recognize opportunity when you see it, and then take advantage of that opportunity when you can. You know, and I think that I get better and better at it, and also the more opportunities that you get and then you take advantage of, the more product you have out there and the more you're doing, and then you have something that you can point at and be like, look, you can trust me to do this. I've done this 12 times already. Or I played the clown, everybody liked it. You can trust me to play the clown again. You know I'm going to show up. You know I'm not going to be trouble. And, you know, and so they go, yeah, great, you're right. We'll keep bringing you back to play Killjoy, and all of a sudden I am Killjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% you are Killjoy. But yeah, that's awesome. And you got to have, I mean, I love when John took over, it became more, it's, you know, there's more depth to it, but it's more funny than it is trying to be the scary clown. Like it's more fun, and I'm sure it was more fun for you guys as well.
Exactly. I mean, in part 2, which was my first one, which was similar to part 1 in tone, it was sort of like Killjoy invades the real world, and then, you know, sort of just as like a magical Jace or whatever. And then what I really liked about what John did is we kept going further and further into the clown world until the point, like, where the last one, I mean, geez, we're like in space. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, there is no real world analog anymore. We are just completely gone totally into Killjoy's clown world, and it's way more fun to do those.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were Betty Boop is with child, and you guys are in space. So it's
yeah, exactly.
Different.
So, gosh, leaving it on a cliffhanger like that, what's going to happen in part 6? I don't even know. I have no idea.
Yeah. The people are definitely clamoring for that. We talked to both of those guys about it. Everybody seems like they're definitely interested. It's just more of a budget issue. It's got to be bigger.
It is.
So.
You know, and I think the problem that happens, particularly with Full Moon, is that they give you a certain amount of money, you make something good, everybody likes it, and then they're like, well, that's amazing, you guys are so talented, now we're going to give you a little bit less money and a little bit less time. Yeah. And then you push it through and you make it amazing, and they're like, wow, you were able to do it in less money and less time. Can you do it for less money and less time? So in Hollywood, if you make a movie and it succeeds, everybody gets more money, and there's a bigger budget for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Whereas in the Full Moon world, it's the exact opposite. Yeah. If you make one that succeeds, they ask you to do it again, but for less money and less time. And every time it gets less and less. And honestly, we shot Killjoy's Psycho Circus in 5 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's like not recommended. You know what I mean? And you keep thinking while you're making it, wow, if we had 12 days, wow, think of what we could make.
You know? Right, absolutely. Yeah, and a few more $1 million. Who knows? I mean, if I'm sure.
A few more.
Well,
Just one,
yeah. But yeah, I just keep telling the fans and everybody listening just to keep, just like John told us, like just keep harassing Charles and Full Moon and tell him you want it. Eventually, you know, they'll find a way. Keep banging on the doors. Someone will answer.
Exactly. I think he will, and I think he does respond to, you know, fan input. I mean, fans are the ones that are really, like, have continued to drive that company and a company like Troma. I mean, certainly new fans come along all the time, but it's the old fans that have been there for years that really dictate whether or not these things get made.
Absolutely. No, I remember when I was a kid, like, and I remember Terra Firma, like like you said, pre-internet, basically. Like, and I didn't quite understand the movie. I just knew
Right.
that it was like an epic thing. And I bought it, like I had it, and I didn't know why. I just knew there was something special about it. And then I saw Tromeo and Juliet, and I was like scared of life, and I loved it, and it was so confusing and scary in a weird kind of way, and I fell in love with Troma after that. But
yeah, in many ways, they're like weird gateway drugs that like young kids can watch, and they know that what is going on is very adult, but it's being done in a juvenile way. So it's a weird, like there's a transitionary period when you're a young teen where Troma movies like really, really, really speak to you. I mean, they certainly did to me on USA Up All Night when I was a young man. So
absolutely, yeah, it's crazy. So I guess going back to you ended up meeting this guy. So he helped you with Chop. So how did that's essentially your first? You're the director now. You're the man. Like, what was that? What was that experience like? You're making your own movie now. Like, was that a whole new world for you? Was that like how was that experience? Was that totally different or?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was super exciting. We also shot that thing in, I think, maybe 10 days or something like that. I didn't have a very large budget, but because I had done these movies and I had produced them for Full Moon, and I knew how to take very little money and make it work, and approximately how much people should get paid, and how fast we should shoot, and how you could get the movie done. So I was very, I think, prepared for making a movie at that level. And of course, like all I wanted to do was direct. And what was great is I got to sort of like pick a project that was a lot more along the lines of what I've always wanted to do. I mean, I love Lloyd's movies, and I love Lloyd, and I love his vision. And when I wrote Citizen Toxie, I was thinking about writing the ultimate Lloyd Kaufman movie. And when I was working on Charles Band's movies, I was like, how can I make these the best Charles Band movies? But finally, with Chop, I got to make a Trent Haaga movie. And I knew that it was, and you know, that's what I do. They're sort of funny, sort of violent, sort of weird, maybe a little bit hard to put in a box. More of a crime thriller than an actual horror movie, but definitely having elements of horror movies in them while also having a little bit of that Troma punk rock humor to it. I think that eventually, yes, Chop was the movie where I got to take all the things that I loved about my Troma experience and all the things that I loved and learned from my Full Moon experience and sort of got to recombine them into my own thing. Was the movie successful financially? No. Do people even know it's out there? Not really. But I did make a very, 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 very low budget movie that, got a distributor and, was out and about there. And, some people who were interested saw it. But at the time, I was in a completely different league. I mean, I didn't know anyone in the festival cycle. I didn't know anybody, any real producers. I just got some crazy Chinese businessman to wire me, a couple $1,000 so I could make a movie, and then once I was done, all I wanted to do was make the movie. Then when I finished the movie and was like, now, how do I get this out there? How do I sell it? How do I promote it? How do I market it? That's when I was like, oh boy, now I'm out of my depths yet again. But I used it to try to learn, and it helped me with my subsequent movies.
Absolutely, yeah. That's with anything. I learned that. I learn something every day doing this show, and like, there's so many things I've never done before. I just have to do it and figure it out and suck really bad at it. And then next time I suck a little less, and hopefully eventually I'll be good at it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, I don't have enough money to pay people to do a good job at what I need to get done. So many, many times I'm like, I will just have to do it myself because I will work tirelessly for free. And I care about this project more than anyone else out there. You know what I mean? A salesman might be like, oh, I got this movie Chop. What do you think? Korean buyer, do you want it? And they're like, nah. He's like, okay, moving on. Whereas I would stand there and be like, no, you want this movie. No, you have to have this movie. Why are you saying no? Is it because of the money? Well, let's make a deal. Let's whatever, you know what I mean? And I think that you're the only one who, until at a certain budget level, you just can't pay people to care enough. And you're the only one who can really, really, really care about these things and has to do it. Like, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're David Fincher and you're like, I'm paying you $1 million to do this job, so you better be the best at it. And they go, you're right. For $1 million, you get all of my time and effort. But if you're like, I will give you $200, you know what I mean? You're going to get $200 worth of effort,
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you've written like a lot of movies. I mean, you've only directed 2 now, right? But
Yeah.
you've written a
Yeah.
lot that have been made, and obviously probably a million more that haven't been made. Um, how did you? I guess how did you transition from like doing screenplays or writing stories into like doing something like The Evil Within? Like how was that just a
Right.
story that was
Right.
written, or was that how did something like that come about for you?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. First of all, I was sitting down and writing scripts, and then I would hand them to a guy like Lloyd Kaufman, who wouldn't buy that script or make that movie, but he would hire me to write his movie for him. So then I'd do it, and let's see, the next time around, we needed those 3 movies for Full Moon, and all we had was a title, Hell Asylum. And they were like, we need somebody to write this. You've written a movie that's been made, Trent. Would you like to write this? And you go, okay. And you sit down and write it. And you do that a couple times, and then people might be interested in you as a writer. Fundamentally, what happened is I kept writing my own screenplays because I wanted to write and direct a movie. And so then I would write a screenplay, and I would go out, and I'd be like, hey, I've got this piece of material, and I would like to direct it. And people would read my writing, and they would be like, this is really good. This is really solid. I don't want to buy this one, but can I hire you to write something else? Or, better yet, they'd be like, I want to buy this script, but I don't know you as a director. I don't trust you as a director. As a writer, you've already done the work. They can read it. They know it's there.
Yeah.
Dead Girl was a script that I had written that I wanted to direct, but nobody wanted to hire me to direct it. But then I found some filmmakers who had money and wanted to direct something, and they were like, we want to direct this movie. And so then you're like, fine, I'll take the money. I want to get it made, and then I'll just write another one. And that one is the one I'll direct. So I write something like Cheap Thrills. And then I take that around and go, I want to direct this. And people are like, we don't know you as a director. And then you get somebody to do it. And if you make enough hits that way, then by the time 68 Kill came around, I had a script and I went to a producer and I said, I would like to make this. And no, I will not sell you the script. I have to be attached as a director. And after, selling enough scripts and writing enough movies that have been made, they trust you to direct, or they think your writing is good enough that they want the script bad enough that they're willing to take a risk on you as a director.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works. But I kept writing things for me to direct and then selling them to other people to pay my bills, and then they would direct them.
So, but I mean, so I guess with your, I guess another question though, like with your writing, like the ones that you wrote, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm sure you probably adapted some stuff, or like you wrote for this, or you had a name, so you had to write that. So that I guess that wasn't that probably wasn't necessarily like your love child or anything. But like the ones you wrote, like Dead Girl, that was yours. So I guess it was more important to have it made than to have it sitting on the shelf. It's kind of how that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, honestly, my best screenplays, the ones that mean the most to me, and the ones that get the best reviews, that are the most loved, that like years later people are still talking about them, are all the screenplays that I wrote by myself, with no one hiring me to write something for the Lifetime Network, or no one writing me to write a Full Moon movie. Like, these were movies that meant, screenplays that meant a lot to me. And as a result of that, yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? You've got to get them out there and get them made. Dead Girl, Cheap Thrills, both of these screenplays sat on this shelf that I have full of tons of screenplays. I've got so many finished screenplays, a pile of them, like a huge pile. And both of those, people read them and were like, you know what? You're a good writer, but these things are fucking crazy. And nobody's ever going to make these movies. Put them away. And then I was the only one, again, who believed in them and just kept getting them out there and kept pushing them out there. And eventually, you know what I mean, they do get made, and then I'm proved right. You know what I mean? They get into festivals. They win awards. People talk about them. But that's the problem, is all of my really personal stuff, things that I think are the best, are also the hardest movies. Like, they're a little bit harsh. My vision is a little weird, and it's hard for, like, producers to get on board. They're scared. Yeah. I mean, you know, for lack of a better word, Dead Girl is not the kind of concept that, you know what I mean, fucking Sony is going to be like, yeah, here's a bunch of money, right? You know, it's like, you know, when I write my own stuff, it's weird and it's different and it's uniquely me, but because of that, it's not like something you compare to 100 other movies and they're like, oh yeah, it's like Jumanji, we'll just make that, you know. It's definitely, it takes a lot more work, you know. I've got one right now. I don't really like to talk about stuff, but I've got this screenplay that I wrote a couple years ago that I think is one of the best things I've ever written. It fits perfectly in the world of what I do. And I took it out and tried to get it set up twice with 2 different producers, meetings with actors, everything. But in the end, people get scared because it's pretty wild. You know what I mean? They're pretty fucked up movies. But you know what? Right now, it's getting ready to be optioned by a pretty big company that you've heard of. I'm not going to talk about it. But guess what? A bigger director is attached to do it. This was the movie that I wanted to write and direct as my follow-up to 68 Kill, and I couldn't get the traction that I needed with myself as a director, but with this other director who's done some bigger stuff. He's got a Netflix TV show or whatever, and he read it, and he was blown away, and he has the connections to take it out, and now it's going to a bigger company. So no matter how successful I get, if you're trying to move up to the next level, I'm still faced with that sort of a thing where they're like, we won't let you direct it, but this guy we will. And so then you just establish a relationship with a bigger director and, just keep hoping that eventually, I'll be able to do that.
One tiny little step at a time. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, with obviously, I want to talk about 68 Kill. I mean, I feel like it's obviously, like you said, like all these other movies that you did, they people come back to them. They're like, you know what I mean? They realize later, which is it seems like a pretty big issue with a lot of the things you were making because you weren't in the right position to make them properly. So they come back around. They find you like I said, I discovered, like you and all your stuff because of our listeners, and now I went and watched 68 Kill, and we're actually going to have the other guys. We're gonna do a review. I made them watch it. We're gonna put a review up in a couple of days, but I absolutely love it. But I feel like with things like Netflix and Amazon and streaming services, like those chances for you to be able to do that are going to be a whole lot bigger now because you can make them for those companies. And if people go out and watch 68 Kill a million times on Netflix, that's just like they want to go see it in the theater. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to make that money, but you're going to get the, you know what I mean? They'll know. People will know that it's successful, and then they'll want you to make movies because that one was so fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the hope, but it's interesting. I always look towards the future, but I never look 7 steps ahead. I'm usually just looking right at the next foot that I can put down. You know what I mean? And so it's like, what can I do? I'll write another screenplay. Netflix is not coming to my house and knocking on my door. They don't even have my phone number. My movie's on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not big enough that whatever. But if I feel it's a cumulative thing. If I just keep doing this, if I just keep doing it, that, quite frankly, I know that I'm not going to direct a Star Wars movie. It's just not going to happen. I know I'm not going to make a Marvel movie. I'm not at that level, and I never will be, and that's okay. But I do feel strongly that 20 years from now, you know what I mean? There's going to be kids. There's going to be people that are going to go, "Oh man, Dead Girl, that movie was fresh and exciting. Wow, so was Cheap Thrills. Huh? So was 68 Kill. Huh? So was Chop. Wait a second, and they're gonna. And I think that maybe in 20 years, people will look back and go, "Oh, wait, there was a common thread with all these radical visions, and Trent Haaga was the guy." It's really difficult because that's it. I want my products to be watched, and I love my products, but I do not look at myself as a product. You know what I mean? And that's very important these days, in the Twitter and the YouTube and the, whatever. I don't do social media really. I've got a Facebook page, but that's it. I don't have any others, and I'm not out here spending time promoting Trent Haaga as a product because I'm not a product. I'm a man who creates products. And in many ways, I think that you have to sort of market yourself as some sort of a product, and I think it's because of my age. I'm just like, no, fuck that. And also my dad's blue collar. You know what I mean? It was like, son, you keep your mouth shut, you put your nose to the grindstone, and if you work and you work hard and you work good and you're consistent, eventually the world will have to, open up to you. And I still feel like that's the way to do it. Instead of me standing around going, "Hey everybody, pay attention to what I've done," I'm just going to keep cranking stuff out until you have no choice but to pay attention to it. But it shouldn't be my job to sort of market my own stuff. I don't want to have to do that. I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a marketer.
No, absolutely. But I mean, that's what, yeah. But I'm saying, I feel like it's your, obviously I haven't seen your whole career live, but it seems like it's just happening now. Like you're working, but it's getting out there. So hopefully it doesn't take another 20 years for people to realize, the great work. Maybe a couple, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what? I mean, you just get to the point where you're like, I used to have this joke with a friend of mine. I was like, that's it, man. 2012, it's my year. This is my year. But, you live 47 years and you start to go, okay, it's not really about like this year or that year. It's just about putting one foot in front of the other. And I mean, honestly, it's really weird. Again, I do not talk about my stuff, but I've got 3 pretty significant, interesting, and really cool projects that are steps up above what I've done previously. But the truth of the matter is that all 3 of them could blow up in my face. You know what I mean? Or all 3 of them could get made this year. It's like this industry and working, trying to do this for a living or whatever is a little bit like being a professional gambler. I mean, every time, it doesn't matter if I just rolled, you know what I mean? I rolled fucking 5 times and hit every time. The next time you might lose. Or you might roll 10 times in a row and lose, but the 11th roll will be the one that hits. You know what I mean? And I don't even like to gamble, but my entire career is like predicated on the concept of being a gambler in a way, you know?
No, absolutely. And so I guess speaking on that kind of, you had that movie, right? Like you had this big budget, everything was ready. Giovanni Ribisi, Channing Tatum, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, dude. Okay, I'm just going to commend you on the fact that you've actually done a little bit of research on me. Honestly, I avoided doing interviews and podcasts because I was telling the same story about how I got to work for Troma.
Yeah.
Over and over again. But yeah. I mean, you know what? Listen,
that's on part 1, bro. That's not even on this. This is take 2.
Yeah, exactly. That was in the beginning of the podcast. But yes, I did. I had a project that almost got made. That was going to be the thing that was going to really put me on the map. We had a lot of big stars attached. I mean, we're talking about like locations full of production design, the DP of Children of Men, a full production office. Like, it was ready to go. We had 2 Academy Award-winning women as the 2 leads. We had Lindsay Lohan, Giovanni Ribisi. It was like a big deal. And Channing Tatum. It was crazy. And, fuck, man.
Like, what was the time period of this?
Long and ridiculous story.
Was this like...
This was maybe...
Dancing Channing Tatum or like 21 Jump Street Channing Tatum?
No, this was like, he had only really done the step up at this point. Yeah, I think this was in 2009, because here's what happened. That screenplay was going around town. I got my name in Variety magazine, and people, like, I started to get interest from managers and agencies and everything like that. They were all, like, sniffing around me, but at the time we were shooting Dead Girl. And I remember leaving the set of Dead Girl to go across town to go visit an agency, like a big-time agency. And they were all about this other movie. It was called Poor Things, this other screenplay that I'd written that was really close to going. And, and then they were like, what are you doing right now? And I was like, I just left the set of another movie that I wrote that is shooting. And they were like, what? But Dead Girl, and all the people that were like, forget about your low-budget horror movie, Dead Girl. This is it, man. This is it. And I was like, no, but you don't understand. I really, really care about Dead Girl, and I'm here on set every day. I'm like a part of this process, and I love this script, and I want this movie to be great. Why are you wasting your time with low-budget horror movies? You've got like all these big stars and whatever. You should be concentrating on that. And lo and behold, Dead Girl ended up becoming a big cult hit, and the other one never even got made. So, but it's a long, ridiculous, totally bullshit Hollywood story. But the long and the short of it is we were about maybe a little bit over a day from getting started on this movie. And because I didn't have an agent, I didn't have a manager, I didn't have whatever, I had just been kind of writing for a little bit of money here and there, but I had a contract that I was going to get like a 6-figure check on Monday morning. The moment they started shooting, they were going to have a 6-figure check for me. I was going to get in the Writers Guild. My wife was like super excited. And Lindsay Lohan got busted for DUI and cocaine possession like the Saturday night / Sunday morning. And we were supposed to start shooting Monday morning. She went into rehab on Sunday because she had been getting into trouble. And they put the production on hold for 90 days for her to go to rehab. No, 28 days, whatever. And then they tried to ramp it back up again. She was out for a couple of days. She went back into rehab. And I mean, like, Brittany Murphy wanted to take the role over. Julia Stiles wanted to take the role over, but they had their financing was contingent upon the cast that we had, and that included Lindsay Lohan. And they ended up spending, I think, probably almost $2 million on a movie that they didn't shoot one frame of. And, of course, I did not get my six-figure check because they never shot the movie. So that's one of the things where I was like, look, I don't like to talk about things that I'm getting ready to do, is because, like, that thing was, as far as I was concerned, done. Yeah. And it blew up in my face, like, one day before it was supposed to go. And it was embarrassing. It's embarrassing to, like, have all your friends and family know about this exciting project and then have to explain to all of them later about how it got fucked up, And so because of that, it's not like I'm superstitious. I just don't want to say I'm going to do something and then have something happen that is out of my control, and then I have to explain why it never happened. So I don't tend to talk about things that I am going to do or I'm in the process of doing,
Yeah. No, I can understand. Obviously, I'm not doing anything that big, but that's the reason I didn't announce this interview until it was done. Because
you never know when you're going to be halfway through a podcast and then they just got to jet out and then they don't call you back. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? That would be my words of wisdom from an experienced person to anybody listening, is that, like, hold your cards close to your chest, man. Enjoy making the things for what it is. When it's actually done, you can talk about it then. But there's no reason to talk about a thing that isn't finished.
That's a hard thing to do when you get excited.
Yeah. No. It is. And I see it all the time in town with a lot of filmmaker friends of mine or whatever. But for me personally, I've learned now the power of control. And I definitely just don't do it because of that experience. That experience was brutal and devastating for me.
Oh, I can only imagine. So, I kind of know how movies are made. Obviously, you're going to get finance and all that. I just, I guess, I don't understand if a company's in, how is that movie not being pushed somewhere else? Or why didn't someone else say, here's my million? All these people like it. It's obviously probably going to be good because usually people think for other people. So why wouldn't someone else throw another, here's my million, let's get this girl instead and keep chanting and how does...
Right. Well, you know what? They really wanted to. There were other companies that wanted to. But here's what happens is an independent film producer gave me a month's worth of rent to write the script for him. And I wrote it thinking, cool, I got my rent covered.
Yeah.
And then he went out and it got a lot of traction and it started to get stars attached. And then, Miramax and Focus and all the major studios wanted to get involved. But they were like, look, producer guy, we'll pay you back all the money you've invested in it so far. We'll give you credit. Let us take over. We're a studio. We know what we're doing. And the dude was like, man, if all these people are hot for this, I could be making all the money they would make. So he went out and borrowed, the money to make this movie, and then blew it all and didn't make the movie. And so then if another producer had to come by, well, guess what? They had to pay all of the debts that this guy had accrued in order to get it going again. So all of a sudden the movie is, automatically $1.5 to $2 million worth more than the budget, right? So who wants to get involved in something like that? Yeah. It sort of ruined it because they got so close to production and had spent so much money that then when they went around and tried to get other people to get into it, they were like, oh, by the way, you also have to pay back the people who put in this money that we blew already. And that is toxic. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to get involved in that. So
that makes sense. Yeah, nobody wants to start $2 million in debt.
Exactly. They're like, you can have this, but first you have to pay off. You know what I mean? So in essence, you're paying, a couple $1 million for just a screenplay. That's all there was. You know what I mean? You'd have to go back out and reattach all these actors and do all this stuff whose schedules have shifted and changed. And then it's just kind of like a balloon that deflates. You know what I mean? All the air runs out of it. And then you're like, do you want this shiny balloon? And they're like, this looks like a deflated balloon. It is. All you got to do is pay to put the air back in it.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's crazy. So let's go back to 68 Kill because obviously we don't want to talk about things that aren't happening yet.
Yes.
So this came out a couple years ago, but I guess it's recently on Netflix getting a new life. For anybody that hasn't seen it, like I said, we're going to do a review, but you should go watch it because it's fantastic. And
thank you.
And props, I don't know who, if it was your directing skills or just I didn't know any better, but Anna Lynn McCord, holy cow. She was fantastic.
Yeah, wow, right?
I was like, that's the girl from 90210? What's going on here?
Yeah. You're part of your job. One of your main jobs, you have a lot of jobs as a director, but finding that right cast, man, being able to see through however they look and however they show up, like when they come and talk to you or whatever. This is like, I'm not powerful enough to get people at that level to audition for me. I just have to get them to hopefully read the script and be interested enough to meet with me, and then sit down and have a conversation with me, and they're the ones who decide whether or not I'm good enough for them to be in the movie. You know, Anna Lynn McCord is a bigger name than me. So, of course, I mean, I met her and was like, oh, my God, this woman is a spitfire, and she grew up in Alabama, and she's like, you know, I'm from the Midwest. I get it. This has got to have a very particular thing. She has to have an understanding of, like, you know, I love all those characters, even though they're dirtbags or whatever. You know what I mean? I get it. I totally get it. I grew up around people that I lived in a trailer park. You know what I mean? And what would I do to get out of there? You just have to have an understanding of it. But being able to put all those people together and really go, you know what, this is going to be the right person for this role. I just feel like I got, I mean, there's a luck about being able to get somebody like Anna Lynn McCord to read your script and be interested enough to come in, but there's a skill to being able to go, yeah, she's going to work. You know what I mean? There are other actors that were up for that part. There were other actors that were up for some of the other parts, but I picked the ones that I picked because I felt that they were going to work, and she's amazing.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I'm not super familiar with the other, like everyone in the cast did a fantastic job. But I knew her as the girl from 90210, and I was like, "What in the hell? Really? Holy cow! Like, she's badass!" Like, it was awesome. I was like, "Oh my god! I didn't like this girl's legit." Like,
no, she really is. Yeah,
but yeah, the movie's great. I don't want to spoil it or anything, but yeah, everyone should go watch it. It's on Netflix. Watch it a million times. It's fantastic. It's a great story, and it looks great. Like. What was different about this movie? Not that other movies look bad, but this isn't a low budget movie, and if it is, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like a Killjoy film. It doesn't look like
you know what I mean.
No,
like, I mean it's got a bigger budget than a Killjoy movie, but I mean it's still like crazy low budget in Hollywood terms. You know. I've probably never even said this to anybody in any interview, whatever, but the movie is like so far gone and so done already that whatever, but it was a $500,000 movie.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, $500,000 we made that movie. We shot it in New Orleans in about, I think we had 18 days to shoot it. And believe it or not, man, even my DP, that was the first feature he'd ever done.
Holy cow.
He had been a camera assistant, but you know, look, it's all a matter of, like, it's all everything. Like, that's my job. My job is to go, this thing's got to look good. These locations have to look right. These costumes have to be right. You know what I mean? It's, that's your job as a director. It's not, I don't actually have to physically go get the costumes. I don't have to physically, I mean, I did go look at every single location and whatever, but you're trying to pick all the things that are going to fit together and have a unified sort of a vision. You know what I mean? And certainly when you're used to shooting a movie in 8 or 9 days, and then all of a sudden you have 18 days, I mean, there's more people involved, there's more logistics involved, but for a guy like me, I was like a kid in a candy store because I felt like I had so much time. Whereas a lot of other people would be like, 18 days, like, it's impossible. Even most low-budget, you know, VOD type movies of Nick Cage or whatever you see are at least 25 days, at least, you know, so.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. I mean,
thanks.
You might as well have had a Michael Bay budget, man. It looks fantastic. Like, it really does.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, can you imagine what I could do with a Michael Bay budget? I'm just trying to get like $1 million. If somebody could give me $1 million to make a movie, I can't even imagine what I could do. I'd be blowing shit up, collapsing buildings. Who knows?
I was going to ask you, you mentioned, like, obviously you said, I'm never going to direct a Star Wars or a Marvel. Is that something that you actually, like, not necessarily those brands, but is that something you actually aspire to do with something like that? Or do you write stories in that manner?
You know, the answer is no. I don't even watch Star Wars movies or Marvel movies. I'm just trying to speak in the language that human beings that watch movies understand because that's all they fucking watch, you know? But I have no interest in that shit, man. You know what I mean? I want fresh, original stories. I want things that feel like they came from a human being as opposed to a team of people sitting in a boardroom or whatever, you know? I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, hands down, my favorite movie of the year, hands down. And it's because of what, you know, it feels like a human being made that movie. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, it's Quentin, so I
Yeah, oh, it's fucking great. It's great, you know what I mean? But no, look, I mean, obviously, I would love to have a bigger budget. I would love to. I would love to make a $5 million movie. I'd love to one day make a $20 million movie. But do I really want to make a $150 million movie? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd do it. My wife would be thrilled at the paycheck, and of course I would. But that's not sort of my agenda, I don't think. You know, I feel like once you get that big, then you're not really making a movie for, you know, yourself or even a particular audience. You're just trying to make a thing that, you know, you're making white bread. You know what I mean? Something that everybody will eat and everybody will agree on. And I want to make something spicy. You know, I want to make a spicy dish that a smaller number of people are going to absolutely adore, instead of making something that's like a loaf of bread where everybody eats it and they're like, okay, you know, this is bread.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. That's I assumed that's what you're going to say, but you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? I mean, you can make a very, you know, dialect heavy, awesome film with explosions and things blowing up, and like the Irishman or whatever that just came out. That's pretty
James
cool.
James Gunn came up right where I did, and look at him. You know what I mean? It's all superhero movies all the time for him, but I just don't think that's in the cards for me. You know what I mean? I don't think that I'm interested in that, quite frankly.
Yeah, but that's awesome. Yeah, James Gunn. Yeah, Guardians. He had a different, and that was a different tone than any other one ever made. You know what I mean? So you get that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like they need to be doing more things like that. But I think that every time they do, it's not always as successful as Guardians. And then they get gun shy, and they're like, let's just bring back these people that we know can just deliver the thing that doesn't really offend anyone, that people don't really have to think about. It's, you know, whatever. It's like a bunch of flashing lights and loud noises for 2 hours, and they walk out satisfied. They're not trying to, you know, I don't know, make you think.
Yeah, don't make me think too much.
Confront you. Yeah, or anything like that. So.
Yeah, don't offend me. That's pretty much the thing. Let me see here. I got all kinds of notes here. I'm trying to go back.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, 68 Kill. You mentioned this to me, actually, when we were messaging each other. So I'm super interested in this. You have music from the legendary Mike E. Clark featured.
I do.
How in the world?
I do.
What? I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it. It wasn't like. That's awesome.
You know, Mikey Clark's got a whole bunch of like instrumental albums that he did. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like volume 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
Beats for that ass.
What's that?
Beats for that ass.
Yes. So I was listening to those, and I was like, I really like this song. I think it would fit, like, right here. Why was I listening to Mikey Clark? Because Mikey Clark's a fucking genius. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear all this shit. I get so, like, missed at the fucking Juggalo hate out there in the world. You know what I mean? It's, like, fucking ridiculous. But at the same time, it's what makes those guys so fucking awesome, is they're like, I don't care how much you hate me. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do it myself. In many ways, I feel like there's a parallel between myself and my attitude about filmmaking and ICP's attitude about music. You know, it's like nobody's going to fucking help you out. Nobody's going to whatever. I don't need corporations. I don't need any of this. I know that I can do this. I'm going to go out and do it on my own. And so, I mean, I've seen ICP a couple times in concert. Mikey Clark was a DJ, opened up for him one time when I saw him, and I just like that song. And Mikey Clark was real easy to work with. He was kind of excited that, you know, somebody was coming to him, because it's not an ICP song, so we didn't have to go to Jay and Shaggy or whatever or Psychopathic to get that song. We just had to go to Mikey Clark, and he was like, "Oh fuck yeah, man!" And I mean, he basically gave it to us for free. It was really nice.
That's awesome. Shout out to Mikey Clark. Yeah, Mike Clark's awesome, man. We got really drunk with Mike in February at Ashton.
Oh, did you? You know, I gotta say, I always really liked the ICP. I liked what they were about. I dig it. And then I fucking read their book, Behind the Paint. Have you ever read that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I read it and listened to the audiobook.
yeah, dude. I read that book, and I was like, these guys are my fucking heroes. And from this moment on, I mean, I don't give a shit. I'm a Juggalo, and fuck you guys. You know, so that book was like super inspiring to me, Ninja. Super inspiring to me, you know? And I was like, you know what? These guys are the best, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. So,
that's awesome, man.
Fucking, I'm down with the clowns, man. And I mean, dude, nothing would be greater than to somehow get Killjoy and ICP together in some way.
That'd be sick.
I would love for that to happen.
I was gonna say, you probably get, like, do you do any like conventions, or do you ever do anything as a Killjoy character? Like,
No,
publicly?
no,
Or?
nobody's ever asked me to. So
See, I'm sure you probably get a lot of Juggalos.
Yeah, that would be awesome, dude. I fucking, it's crazy because, whatever, man. I listen to vinyl. I'm a vinyl collector, whatever. And I just bought, fucking the Jekyll Brothers for the record store day, man. I got Greg Malenko. I got all this shit on vinyl, man. I jam out to it.
That's dope, man. That's awesome. Yeah, we're all Juggalos over here, man. That's kind of how this whole thing started, to be honest. So.
Nice. Well,
I've literally been to 20. I've been to all 20 gathering of the Juggalos.
Oh my god, I want to go to the gathering so bad, man, so bad. Like I said, I've seen ICP a couple times. I just went out not too long ago and saw Necro and Mad Child. That was pretty good.
Yeah, Gmo was there. Did you see Gmo?
No, I didn't see that.
He played right before it. Right, he played right before those guys.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the one in October. I think I went to their last show before that. I couldn't make it. What was it? I was pissed because I had to do something else. And I was like, what? Fucking Mad Child and IC People? What? It was like October 26th or something like it. It was right around there, but I couldn't. I had some other fucking Halloween event or something that I had to go to, so I missed it. But I have seen Necro one time I saw Necro open for ICP.
Yeah, they did a whole charity tour.
Coolio, Cottonmouth Kings. It was a whole.
Oh yeah, the Happy Days tour.
Yeah.
Coolio with his Juggalo with only one G tattoo.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Twisted does a convention every year now. This February would be the third one.
Where's that? In Detroit? Or?
Yeah, it's in Sterling Heights, Michigan, called Astronomicon. Lloyd Kaufman's going to be there this year, and Kevin Eastman. And
no kidding.
All kinds of people.
Nice, man.
Maybe I'll put it in their ear.
I just listened to their Hungry Like the Wolf cover.
Yeah.
Because they also work with Jimmy Urine from Mindless Self-Indulgence, also one of my favorite bands. So, very exciting.
Yeah, I love that. That's yes. I love Jimmy. I love Mindless. I love what he's doing by himself. He does movies and video games and all that stuff. That's so dope.
Yeah. No, man, I'm fucking yep. I'm down with all that shit.
That's awesome. Sure. See how cool you are? You should do more fucking podcasts, bro.
You know what? You should consider yourself look, and I'm not going to lie to you. I do say no to them quite a bit because I kind of do research on them and I'm like, But I got to say, I looked at your thing, I was like, oh, he does a lot of Troma. That's cool. Oh, he also does Full Moon. Well, that's rad. Oh, well, look at all these fucking underground horrorcore, hip-hop guys, too. All right, you know what? I do all three of those.
Yeah.
This should definitely be something that I should do.
That's awesome. That's
and a lot of people don't know that I'm a Juggalo, man. They don't know it, because I don't look like one. I look like a pretty regular-ass dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What? Unless you dress up like a demonic clown.
Yeah, exactly. Look, fundamentally, Juggalo is a state of mind. It's not your face paint. It's not your clothes.
It's punk rock,
It's your state of mind. And it's fucking punk, right? It's the same thing with punk rock. I'm a punk, I'm a Juggalo, I'm all that shit, but I just sort of look like a regular-ass dad, and that's part of the plan. You know what I mean? It's like as you get older, you're like, you know what? I don't need people to know what I'm into. I want to fucking surprise them, or I don't really care if they know what I'm into, because fuck them all. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put that in their ear, man. Maybe they can. Maybe we can get them to book you for Astro 4 and do a Killjoy photo op or some shit for everybody.
Oh, dude, I would. And you know what? Tom Devlin, the makeup guy, he would totally come out, and I would fucking Killjoy the shit out of that, dude.
That would be awesome.
I'm also a fan of Twisted. I got, what did I just bought? I just bought Wicked on double red vinyl about 2 weeks ago.
That's
I've been
awesome.
listening to that, so.
Hell yeah. You did do, as I think, obviously it's the first time I've ever asked you, you did do a Killjoy appearance once for a wedding, right?
Oh, yeah. I guess that's true, although I don't... Yeah, that's true. I got asked to be Killjoy one time outside of the movies, and it was to do a clown wedding. Wow, you're good, man. Kudos to you. Kudos that you actually knew that. I was just going to not tell that story. But, there were a couple of people that were like, they're weekend clowns, man. They're regular people who got jobs, but on the weekends they like to dress up as these, crazy clowns and go to bars and shit in Texas. And they asked me to be the best man at their wedding, and I was like, whoa, hey, listen. I'm just Trent Haaga. I'm just an actor and a writer and a director. I'm not like Killjoy. And I was like, you know, you would have to fly me out. You'd have to put me up. You'd have to bring out Tom Devlin from Florida to do the makeup effects. You're going to have to pay me, like, spend the money on, like, your honeymoon or something. And they were like, no, man, this is what we want more than anything in the world. And so I was like, well, if you're willing to pay, I mean, I'm willing to do it. And that was really weird. Look, when I make these Killjoy movies, first day I put on the makeup, I come out on the set. Everybody's like really into it. They all need their picture for Facebook or whatever. But then
it's work.
You know what I mean? We're all pros, and I only have to say what's on the script, and the rest of the time I'm trying to stay cool and not, you know, asphyxiate and you know, learn my lines and kind of whatever. So I've never been like, okay, we're going to put this on and let you loose into the world, and now you're just riffing. You know what I mean? Yes. And so that was kind of weird, right? And the most interesting part of that night, though, is that I went and I did this clown wedding that took place at like a haunted house attraction, and all these people were there, and I'm talking to them as Killjoy, and I'm getting pictures taken, and I'm signing their DVDs, and it's really cool. But at the end of the night, they're like, okay, it's like midnight, we're going to go back to our house and have like a little after party. You should come by. And I was like, that's cool, but I'm going to go take all this shit off first, because like, you know, they could just pull their masks off. You know what I mean? I was like, or they had like, I had a full prosthetic on. So I was like, I'm going to take this off, and then I'll come to the house and meet you. So I take off all my makeup, and then Tom, the makeup effects guy, and I go to their house, and we're like hanging around. And I'm sitting there talking to people that I just talked to like an hour ago as Killjoy. You know what I mean? And they were like, this one girl was like, oh my God, did you get to meet Killjoy? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And she was like, oh, he was so cool. He signed my DVD. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I know, because, like, you know, I was standing right here talking to you like an hour ago as Killjoy. She was like, oh, it's so rad. I'm like, yeah. She was like, do you think he's coming to the party? And I'm like, nah, I think he was, like, tired and went home to his hotel or whatever. And she's like, cool. All right, see ya. You know, and it was, like, almost like now I know what it's like to be Clark Kent and Superman. Right. You know what I mean? I got to be Superman. I got to be Killjoy. And all these people were, like, fucking talking to me or whatever. And then I go to a party as Trent Haaga, and I'm totally, like, you know, ignored. And it was awesome. That was, awesome. Like, the most interesting part of it was that sort of, like, I get to get all of the attention for a minute, but then when I take it off, I get completely left alone. And it was, like, great. It must be what the guy who plays C-3PO or whatever feels like, you know?
That's awesome. Well, then, I think it's funny. It's weird because I heard you tell this story somewhere when I was looking for your stuff, but then I never saw it mentioned again, but it's actually a joke in the damn movie that I literally didn't understand when I watched the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Then I heard you tell the story.
Yeah, we talk about, because I think those two clowns did some kind of they shot something that ended up in the movie. So the two clowns that got married that I did the thing for have a little scene in Killjoy Psycho Circus.
Oh, dude, I just remember like Batty says when she comes back or something like that, and she was mad at you. You're like, "What did I ever do?" And she's like, "You did Shivers and Quivers' wedding without me," or something. And I was like, "What is she talking about?" That must have been in one of the movies I didn't watch. But then I heard you tell that story, and my mind was like, "Holy cow! Why does nobody know this? Why am I?"
Yeah, exactly. These movies get more and more meta every time around. I mean, for God's sake, I kill myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. How was that? Yeah. Interviewing yourself and killing yourself.
It's hard. Once again, I don't want to be those actors as hard, but like first, like I came in and did all my Trent stuff before we put on all that makeup. You know what I mean? And so there's somebody just sitting in the chair reading the script of Killjoy's lines, so I had to do all Trent stuff. And then I got to go sit in the chair for an hour and 15 minutes and get the makeup put on, and then I go back and do the other stuff. But I had just done the other dialogue, and so then it was hard to do because I kept getting screwed up. You know what I mean? Because I had to know both sides of the thing. But I was only able to do half of it, and the other person isn't the other actor. They're just a PA or somebody that got sitting in that chair reading the lines. You know what I mean? And so there were a couple moments during that where it got confusing.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely like an iconic scene now, and it's funny because you get to be a big jerk as yourself.
Yeah. Totally,
You're so exactly, Hollywood.
Exactly. Yeah, Hollywood Hagen, man.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do want you to reveal another embarrassing story to all of our listeners to enjoy. It's about the when you were making the movie The Ghouls.
Jeez. Wow, man. Yeah. Have I already done? I must have already. Wow. You must have listened to. Okay. Yeah, man.
I do my research, Trent. Do it.
I like that. Low budget movies, right? One of the things that you're supposed to provide for people on sets. I mean, on big movie sets, they've got like trailers and things where you can go to the toilet or whatever. Whereas, on a low budget movie, there's no toilets. And we were shooting like this movie, The Ghouls, in downtown LA. We didn't have any permits. We didn't have any whatever. We were just sort of an underground thing, and we were shooting from like the time the sun went down until the time the sun went up. So it must have been like, I don't know, midnight or so. We ate Pioneer Chicken, which is this nasty fried chicken. It was the only thing that's open 24 hours in downtown LA. And maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, I mean, I got to take a shit. Like real bad, like sweating and shaking. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm not going to be able to hold this. What do I do? But I was like in downtown at 2 a.m. and it was like nothing, man. And I eventually, that was probably the lowest point of my entire film career, where I was really like, what are you doing? You're making no money, staying up all night long, and now you got to go behind a dumpster where 1,000 syphilitic hobos, you know what I mean, have taken shits before and squat down there, and you got to shit on top of all this hobo shit behind this dumpster in an alley in downtown LA for the glory of making a movie that, yeah, man, it was not my highest point. I'm not going to lie to you, and it really just stood out in my mind because, I mean, look, we're all human beings. We've all been in that situation. You're stuck in traffic, and you think you're going to diarrhea in your pants or whatever. I mean, it's the same thing. It's very uncomfortable, and you hate it, and it's a miserable experience. But then when you're like, I put myself in this situation voluntarily, is when you really, really begin to question, like, what in the fuck you were doing. I mean, look, I did what I had to do to make that movie. I went behind that dumpster, I took a horrendous shit, and I pulled my pants back up, and I went back out and I shot the rest of my scenes for that
awesome.
night. But yeah, man, the things you got to do, and I think it's interesting. I always look at it like that. I mean, whatever needs to get done to get this stuff made. But that's an attitude that not a lot of people have. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like, no, man, I mean, I got to have a toilet to make a movie. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need a toilet. All you need is a camera and some actors and, a dumpster that you can use as a toilet.
But that's, I mean, as much as that's a kind of, I don't know if it's embarrassing, but a silly story, fun, whatever, but it shows, like, you know what I mean? Like the drive and the passion. Like, this is what I have to do to get this, in order to make this happen, because this is number one. This taking a shit
this
is secondary.
Number 2, actually,
literally number two.
Number 2 is what's
It's literally number 2.
That's exactly it, dude. It's about, like I said, there's a luck involved. But there's a seeing opportunities and then putting it in there. And then the third component of that is never say die. You know what I mean? And if you commit to something, then you just commit 100% all the way, no matter how miserable it could possibly get. You know what I mean? And I think that those are sort of the 3 legs of the tripod that, if you want to call me a success, I don't know if I would call me a success, but I haven't had to work a regular job in many years, and I'm not starving to death. And so, but those are the 3 sort of legs of the tripod, to kind of to do this. If you're not willing to do one or any of those, you know what I mean? Or if you just got exceedingly bad luck. But luck is really just like I said, throwing the dice and taking that chance over and over and over again. And eventually you'll get lucky,
Absolutely. Well, I would definitely call you a success, but I think you're only going to get more successful from here. So.
Well, if there's any indication, I have no other option at this point, and I got to keep going. And I genuinely do fucking love it, man. I mean, I love it. I love it. This is what I was meant to do. I just wish I could do it even more, and certainly for a little bit more money. But yeah, I'm here. I'm here to the bitter end.
That's awesome. That. Well, you got some more people joining all along the way, so the car is starting to get fuller and fuller as you go. Even though I know it's been a slow ride, it's getting fuller.
It has. You know what? Hopefully it's like one of those clown cars. You know what I mean? That can just fit like more and more people into it. That's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. So I could probably talk to you all day, but I don't want to keep you much longer. You do have the Death Simber thing coming, right? The short.
Yeah. Death Simber. Yeah. Yeah, 24 filmmakers. Each of us did a short. You know what I mean? Mine's 5 minutes is the maximum length because there's so many. It's more like an ABCs of Death. And I guess the concept is it looks like an advent calendar, and it'll go into door number 1, December 1st, and that's a film. And then it goes out and it goes into door number 2. I still haven't seen the movie yet. I mean, I've only seen my sequence, but Right now, it seems to be playing like festivals, and obviously Christmas is in a couple weeks. I thought when I shot it last December that that it would be out like on VOD and everything this December, but instead it's out on like the festival run this time around. So I would imagine, sadly, that will mean that the regular people won't be able to sort of buy or rent this thing until next Christmas maybe. But it was just a fun, cool thing to do. I think mine's pretty rad. They liked it enough that they made me Christmas Eve, which is the last movie in the sequence. They were basically like, yours has such energy and excitement, and it has a great ending, and so we're going to use it to end the whole film. So I am the last film in the December anthology.
Well, I guess we got to wait a whole year to see that, but look forward to that coming.
Yeah, sorry, man.
That's all
sorry.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to talk about things that haven't been done yet, so I know that was done. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that one we could talk about because I have done it. I totally turned it in. Now it's in other people's hands. So, there's that. There's all those projects that I'm currently fucking around with that I refuse to talk about. But that one we could talk about, but I've already talked about it. That's all there is to it.
Perfect.
It's coming. I finished my part. Now you guys have to wait for the distributors and everybody else to do their part.
There we go. Well, I got one more question for you before I let you go get
Sure.
your children, because we ask all of our guests the same damn question because that's just what we do.
Okay.
Essentially, you got 3 records that either inspired you, as a person or as an actor, as a director, as a writer, you listen to and you're sad or happy, whatever it may be. Just 3 records that you just could not live without. What would they be?
Ooh, okay. I am going to say, these are the records that I just always go back to. I've probably always had a copy of them since they came out in various formats. I'll listen to them anytime. Normally I would say anything by The Damned. They're my favorite band in the world. But I guess if you got to narrow it down to just one of their records, oh my God, dude, that's so hard. I'm going to say, the Black Album by The Damned, although their new anthology called Black is the Night has all of their greatest hits on 4 albums, but it just came out. I would just take that one.
There you go.
It's their
the
super
anthology. Perfect.
Yeah. The Damned anthology is a great one. Let me see here. I mean, we've already brought it up, but Mindless Self-Indulgence's Frankenstein Girls Will Seem Strangely Sexy is a fucking killer record.
It is a killer record.
I fucking love it. Listen to it all the time. This is really hard because I'm a huge, crazy music head. What else? Oh my God, you really put me on the spot. There's so many. Fuck. I'm going to say I like Typo Negative's Bloody Kisses. I've had that one around forever.
There you go.
And, shit. You know what? I mean, look, we've already talked about them, but I will say the Great Malenko. Get the fuck out of here, right? I mean, come on.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, indeed, man, totally. So, those are 4, but I mean, I've got, hundreds of records in my collection.
Oh, for sure.
Slayer, fucking death metal, Cannibal Corpse, The Ministry, Bauhaus, anything, fucking Necro, Mad Child.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love all
Is there a guilty pleasure in that bunch? Is there you got the punk rock, the horrorcore, the metal? Is there a Mariah Carey thrown in there or something?
I'm trying to think of who. There's I mean, I listen to some weird shit, but I would say that do I have a record that people would be like, why the fuck do you have this record?
Like your best friend comes over and he's like, bro, what the hell are you doing with
this? Yeah, exactly. Weirdly enough, I don't know if I have one of those. I mean, there's a band that I listen to called Biss, who are very Euro poppy, and you would not expect me to listen to that band. So maybe anything in their catalog seems like something that I probably wouldn't listen to, but that I really enjoy. And then there are, of course, the people that I don't give a fuck what you say. You don't like Rob Zombie? Tough shit. I fucking think I buy all of his records, so fuck you.
There you go. Yeah, I honestly don't believe.
Pleasure.
I don't believe in the as I've gotten older, I don't believe there is such thing as a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure. Who cares?
Yeah. Exactly. I don't need to feel guilty about this. You know what I mean? Kiss my ass.
I like pop music sometimes. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's pop. It's catchy. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's an array of stuff. Gives people an idea, you know what I mean? So, and that's where
exactly.
that's probably where the crazy mind of Trent Haaga comes from, is that music. That's you may appear to be a normal man, but the things going into your ears that come out through your pen.
Exactly. It's the stuff that keeps me insane. It doesn't keep me sane, it keeps me insane, which is where I need to be.
That's right. Well, I look forward to seeing more of your insanity on the screen, and I'm sure plenty of other people do. And I definitely appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today, man. It was awesome, and hopefully we do it again
I
sometime.
appreciate you being patient with my having to stop there in the middle of it. But thanks for having me.
It's all good, man. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the Replicon Radio family. You got some stuff coming out that you can talk about. Let us know, and we'll get the word out. And like I said, we are going to shoot a review for 68 Kill as well for people to check out. So hopefully we can get some more people to go view it.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Well, much love. Go get your kids. Thank you again, and hopefully we'll keep in touch.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, man. Thanks.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Let's talk credit.
Shout out Jay Farner. What up, y'all? Shout out to Trent Haaga. That was super dope. Everything's trying to kill me right now. Anyway, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys check out all of our old stuff. It was an absolute pleasure talking to Trent, a.k.a. Killjoy, as some of you may know him. If you're a fan of Killjoy and those movies, make sure you check out our interview with Victoria DeMar, who played Batty Boop, and the director of Killjoy 3, Killjoy Goes to Hell, Killjoy Psycho Circus, and the upcoming Puppet Master movie, John Lachago. Peep that out. Also, if you're a fan of just that whole world of horror or comics, we got Kevin Eastman, the creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's an interview with Bill Moseley from 3 from Hell and Chop Top. We got Kane Hodder, John Cassier, the Crypt Keeper. We got other actresses, directors. We got movie reviews. We're going to have an upcoming movie review for 68 Kill. So subscribe to our channel on YouTube to get all the extras like the reviews, and you'll get early access to interviews. And the full program is always available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, anywhere you can find or listen to a podcast. Just search Replicon Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Replicon_radio. And find everything at RepliconRadio.com. We got merchandise available at the website, also on our Big Cartel, RepliconRadio.BigCartel.com. So buy some merch, support the show, join our Patreon, get even more exclusives, extra episodes, all kinds of dopeness. And we appreciate all the love and support. Thanks for tuning in.